We are so pleased to welcome to Town Talk today Jonathan Beater, known as JB, who is the Director of Public Works for the town of Plymouth.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, lots going on in Plymouth as always.
Yes.
And there's kind of four major things that we want to talk about. And the first one is the finalization of the town's water master plan.
Yes.
So can you break that down to a really easily accepted concept?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So
Okay.
this is our draft
It's huge,
water
right.
master plan.
Right.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy document. We've been working, staff's been working on this for well over a year.
Yeah.
We got funding from town meeting to put this together. Our last master plan was done about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And what a master plan is it really spells out, operationally what we do, how we do it, and when we need to do it.
Okay.
Because there's a ton of moving pieces with a water system.
Oh, yeah.
It's, we want to make sure we're providing, safe drinking water.
Yeah.
We want to make sure our systems are all functioning properly.
Yeah.
But what's unique about Plymouth is our growth and need for drinking water is critical, trying to keep up with that demand. And we've had a very difficult time in Plymouth meeting those demands in terms of moving water because of the sophistication of your system. We have such a big system in Plymouth.
It's huge. Your land mass is so huge.
It's massive, yeah. Your
Yes.
topography
Yeah.
it varies, and your land mass is large in terms of area, and we have about 14,000 people on the system now, which is really good. Everything is in good shape. It's
Okay.
just our ability to move water between those 6 pressure zones.
Right.
We have 13 wells, 10 tanks. So meeting what's called max day demand, especially during the summer, is difficult because we supply residents about a little over 4 million gallons a day. That's our average use.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, but
Yeah.
in July and August, that goes up to a little over 8
Yeah.
and 9. So
Yeah.
we have to move water between the pressure zones.
Now, can you just define what is the pressure zone?
A pressure zone is an area of the system where water kind of moves freely
Okay.
within that pressure zone.
Okay.
So we have a Manomet pressure zone, North Plymouth pressure
Yep.
zone, a Plymouth Center pressure zone,
Yeah.
and you can tell that by the color of the hydrants.
Okay.
All of the hydrants throughout town are color coded,
okay, I didn't
so
know
we
that.
know what pressure zone we're
Okay.
in. So that's typical. But as far as the master plan itself, this document is really a utility for us that guides us
Okay.
in terms of what we need to do, at our pump stations, at our wells, in terms of upgrades.
Yeah.
And it really defines our capital plan. Every year we go to town meeting
Yeah.
for capital.
Yeah.
So this document dictates to us. It's really a good planning tool for us.
And when it comes to water, there's really no gray areas. It's black and white. What has to be done,
Yes.
how it has to be done.
It's definitive.
Right.
There's a schedule for implementation and that's all spelled out here. So anybody can pick up this document and look at
Yeah.
it. And we presented this back to the select board in November. And since then we've had a public forum, and the board is putting together a committee.
Yep.
A conservation committee, because there's been a lot of involvement. The last public forum, we've had about 50 people involved. A lot of great questions, a lot of good commentary, and we're excited that's happening now. And this committee will work on conservation efforts. What are the best ways so we're not pulling too much water to the ground
Right.
and wasting that water?
Right.
And there's a lot of interest there from some of our watershed groups, a lot of activists in town in terms of ways to protect and safeguard our water supply.
Right.
So that's ongoing.
Okay. And when will, what do you have to decide on town meeting in regards to this master plan? Whether or not
Yes.
you're going to implement it, or how fast you're going to implement it, or how much it's going to cost? What are the
Sure. So
components?
that's kind of rolling into another discussion in terms of what we have programmed for town meeting in April.
Okay.
So the water division of DPW has a multitude of projects.
Yeah.
The first is we're doing some new source exploration.
Okay.
We're asking town meeting for $200,000 because Forges Field well is coming online in a couple of months, and we'll talk about that. But aside from Forges Field, we need to look for additional water supply.
Right.
So new wells.
New wells, somewhere there's water under the ground there. We have to find a place
Somewhere in
to
the town,
get it.
we need to site new water
Yep.
supply,
Yep.
new wells, and that process takes anywhere between 3 and 5 years to permit a new water supply. And we know with our new growth and development and meeting demand, we're going to need those.
Yeah.
And this water master plan is looking at 30 years down the road. And for us to protect our water supply and make sure we meet demands into the foreseeable future, we know we need those new sources.
Okay.
So that's really our first request.
Right.
Going to town meeting in April.
Okay.
The second piece really is a larger project, and we're referring that to Manomet pipe upgrades.
Okay.
And that's a bigger piece of the puzzle for us right now in terms of really addressing the needs of the system today.
Okay.
As we talked about earlier, we have issues or restrictions in the system to move water freely.
Right.
So the Manomet upgrade project really sets the stage for that. We need to upgrade about 5 miles of pipe in Manomet and Cedarville pressure zones.
Okay.
Bartlett Road, Whitehorse Road, Manomet Point Road.
And you have to upgrade them because
They're undersized.
okay, they're not big enough.
So picture an 8-inch or a 10-inch water
Yeah.
main in your road,
Yeah.
and we're moving a lot of water through
Right,
that
and you
pipe.
need-
It's limited.
Yep,
The
absolutely.
carrying capacity
Yeah.
is not large enough. So you have some people in those zones that have too much pressure
Right, and
in
some
their
that don't have
houses.
enough.
Some don't have
Yeah,
enough pressure,
sure.
and we can't meet fire flows. So that's what that project is.
And there's no doubt that has to happen.
That absolutely
The fire flows have to happen.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
that detail is
Yeah.
in this report.
Yeah.
And it tells a tale in terms of what our restrictions are.
Now, what about, do the pressure zones talk to each other? Does the water, like the water from over here and the water from over there, they eventually meet somewhere?
They don't, but we try to.
Okay.
We try to talk to them and tell them what to do.
Okay.
What's fascinating about Plymouth's water system is you have 6 pressure zones.
Yeah.
4 of them talk to each other in the north,
Yeah.
and 2 of them in the east.
Okay.
But together they don't.
North and east don't talk.
So we're
Yeah.
trying to connect the north and east.
Okay.
That's our ultimate goal.
Okay.
So the Manomet Pressure Zone project, which we're going to town meeting, is the first of 2.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, we're going to be looking for funding to do what's called the Pine Hills Interconnect.
Yeah. Now, what is that?
So that is we have a valve station on Rocky Hill Road, and we need to add another valve station. And what that will do, that will allow us to complement the upgrades in Manomet with a new larger pipe in Rocky Hill Road.
Okay.
That will let us actually make that connection between those 2 pressure zones, so we can move water from the east into the north to meet max day demand during the summer.
Okay.
And that will really achieve our goal in the master plan, and that will solve a lot of our problems.
Okay. Wow.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. So water really is now that's drinking water. Now what about the wastewater and that whole
Yeah, so
subject?
Yeah, so wastewater is an entirely different process.
Yep.
As you know, wastewater, we have gravity sewers in
Yep.
Plymouth. We have about 3,300 people on that system.
Yep.
And that all goes to the wastewater treatment plant
Yep.
on Camelot Drive.
Okay.
And then that is treated, and then that is, we have a permit that we go to ocean outfall at 1.7 million gallons a day, and anything above and beyond that, we use our beds on site.
Okay.
So sewer, everything is kind of quiet.
Yeah.
For
Which is
now-
good.
Which is
Which is
really
good,
good. We've had
yeah.
a couple of really busy years.
Yeah.
We are working on a new contract operator starting July 1.
Okay.
The contract with Veolia, we're trying to
Yep.
transition out a little
Yep.
bit early.
Yep.
And the other big one is we're trying to work with the state and DEP to change our permit, our disposal permit, where instead of utilizing the ocean outfall, we're trying to modify that permit and just go entirely to our beds.
Okay.
We're trying to do that to really increase our shellfishing, so we can
Right.
kind of utilize that
Yep.
more, and that's
again,
the goal there,
It
the
just shows how
objective.
everything's connected too.
Everything is absolutely connected.
Absolutely connected. Now, tell me about PFAS testing, which is PFAS
Sure.
testing.
So
what is that?
PFAS is something new that's an emerging, where it's really, you're seeing that throughout the country in New England. We've done a lot of work with the DEP and other towns and states over the past couple of months. The DEP is going to be coming out with some new regulations. They're going to be requiring towns and cities in Massachusetts to start testing for PFAS. Plymouth wouldn't see that until the fall, but what we're going to do is voluntarily we're going to start testing now. We actually started last week, so we should have those results soon. I know, working with the manager and the Board of Selectmen, it's something we really wanted to get out ahead of. And what these substances are, they're referred to as the never-ending substance.
Right.
It's the firefighting foam, it's the Scotch Guard, it's those type of
That
products,
seem to have a
man-made
half-life
products.
that lives forever.
They
and-
stick
yeah.
around in the groundwater,
Yeah.
and it's about what these chemicals are doing. You're drinking them, and they're staying in your liver.
Yeah.
Everybody's still studying the effects and the impacts, but that's really probably the biggest change to the water industry in years, and it's something that we want to closely watch. Some other towns are seeing it in their water supplies. They don't know if it's coming from septic systems or
Right.
what the origins are. But again, it's staying in groundwater, and we want to know exactly what we're pulling up out of the ground. So we've started that testing now. And as soon as we have that information,
Yeah.
we plan on presenting that to the Board of Selectmen.
And then what do you do with that? So
What
did
happens
you find
is-
out what is there generally, have they found, have other towns or municipalities found that there's a certain cause that seems to be in one specific area, or is it just people in
Yeah.
general and they're using pesticides and they're throwing things down the drain they shouldn't? I mean, what is Or is it everything, all of the above?
It's a combination.
Okay.
So first off, the testing. So what the DEP is coming out, they're going to come out with a contamination level, and that's going to be 20 parts per trillion.
Okay.
So we're testing
So you
for,
have to stay.
There's 6 compounds that we're testing for, and this is all being overseen by the state. So we're testing for those 6 compounds, and if what happens is we're testing to make sure we don't trigger anything above the 20 parts per trillion. And 1 part per trillion, for example, is a grain of sand in an in-ground swimming pool.
Okay.
So that's how minute
Yeah,
of
it is, right,
we're testing.
right.
And every year that goes by, the technology and the testing is increasing.
Right.
But with the products, where they're coming from, again, some are old landfills,
Yeah.
some are plants and airports. So it's really case by case
Yeah.
throughout the region. And what happened was New York, Connecticut, New Hampshire, they set these PFAS levels, a little bit before Massachusetts.
Yep.
So we're kind of coming into the game a little bit later.
Okay.
But we're trying to deal with it as quick as we can.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on.
Wow, it's just mind blowing, and especially for a town this big.
Right. So what we do is we'll test all our wells.
Yeah.
And and hopefully we don't have anything. But if we do,
Yeah.
what towns are doing, you can treat PFAS with charcoal filters.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there must
So
be a filtering system.
there is a
Yep.
means to that. But
Yep.
what's happening? So many communities are trying to deal with this that there's a lead time to
Sure.
put those type of systems in.
Now, when you're going to get a new well site,
Yes.
does you get it from the aquifer? I am
Correct,
assuming. Do you
correct.
test obviously the water, and
Yeah.
that probably has to be. You might find the perfect location, but the water doesn't pass the PFAS
Sure. So,
test.
for example,
What do you do?
I'd like to talk about Forges, well, the new
Yes,
Forges
please
well
do.
too. But
Yes.
like when we tested Forges, that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And this was prior to PFAS, so we didn't test for that.
Yep. You
Right.
didn't know.
So that's
Yeah,
the
who
way it
knew?
works.
Yeah.
But yeah, the DEP, the state, when you permit a new water supply, you're doing pumping tests and you're doing water quality tests.
Yeah.
That's a given. You have to do those
Sure,
type of things
sure.
before you put a new water supply into
Yep.
into action.
Yep. Wow.
Hmm.
How do you go about looking for well sites? I mean, where do you start?
Sure, we do what's called a desktop survey. So we look at open space, we look at habitat, we look at proximity to the water supply, and the last water master plan really created a list.
Yep.
And the town actually did a lot of investigation over the years, but there's been a lot of development.
Yeah.
We have, Route 3 and 3A and 44.
Sure.
And you have the industrial park in North Plymouth. So we have to be, cognizant of those things.
Yeah.
So we're looking at areas that are kind of remote,
Mm-hmm.
but yet at the same time they're close to the water system because the connection is costly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put this in South Plymouth, you have to run pipe and you have to install tanks, which,
Oh, right.
which are expensive. So it's
Right.
about feasibility. So it's really about a balance.
Yeah.
How close can you get to the system,
Yeah.
but yet have really great protected land.
Right.
So that's how
So a
we're
lot of
doing
It's
it.
math too.
Well, it's math. It's math.
It's data, it's statistics,
It's engineering. It's
Yeah.
analysis. It's
Yeah.
GIS.
Yeah.
It's working with property owners, landowners,
Right.
next to the system, and trying to strike that balance. Sure.
So my final question to you is how can the typical resident be mindful
Mm-hmm.
of their water usage, of conservation, and get up-to-date information on what they should know from the town?
Sure. The easiest way is if you go on the town's website
Yep.
and you go under water. There's a ton of
Ton of
information.
stuff.
There is.
I looked at it today.
Google is great. You can Google,
Yeah.
Plymouth Water System Master
Yeah.
Plan. You can Google Plymouth Water Department. That's always the
Yeah.
easiest way to do it.
Right.
The other great thing is we went through a whole meter changeout program in Plymouth over the past couple of years. So that's really afforded us a lot of new means to do things. We've gone to quarterly billing, so residents can call myself or the water department to get those. We're also asking town meeting for funding for some new technology to really provide instant, information via the web in terms of water consumption and what they do and when they use water in an effort to conserve and really just track, what people are doing. I think those are the best ways
big
to do
things,
it.
right.
DEP has a ton of information on their website.
Yeah.
If any resident is concerned with PFAS or any environmental
Right.
or
It's all on
substance in
there.
the water,
Yeah.
there's a ton of information out
So
there.
people should, as always, as we always say, is arm yourself with information that's from the source.
Yeah, just ask
Yeah.
questions. They can
Ask
call
questions,
me,
yeah.
they can Google anything,
Yeah.
but we're always available to
Yeah.
them. And that's the favorite part of my job. I enjoy that the most, is the technical pieces, especially, on the utility side.
Yeah.
Our staff does a great job.
Yeah.
The town does a really good job at promoting the water supply here in Plymouth.
Yes, I agree with that. Yep, 100%. Thank you,
welcome.
Jonathan Beater, JB.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and we will see John Beater again in the future on Town Talk.